Today's my review of my Crankbrothers Stamp 7 pedals. I've had them for 2 years, done 12,000 kilometres on them. Frankly, for pedals at this kind of price, I'm far from happy with them. So if you're of a nervous disposition, I'd suggest you switch off now, but otherwise stick with me. I'll get these pedals off the bike and I'll tell you what I think. Okay, pedals off the bike, and I'm going to start with the good stuff. There's not a lot that I can say positive about these pedals, but at least weight's one of them. They weigh in at 380 grams. That's for the larger size, which is pretty competitive compared to something like a Hope F22 or One Up Aluminium, which are 316, around the same price. Yeah, I've no complaints in this section really. So solid 7 out of 10. Okay, comfort, it's a bit of a long story because I think these are more mountain bike pedals rather than touring pedals, but I did buy them for a touring bike. When I got them, they came with 8mm little screws like this one here. Try to get it closer to the camera, and I just found them too grippy and I could feel them underneath my shoe. Perfect for mountain biking, but I don't really need that amount of grip for touring. No big problem. What I did was I got 6mm screws and I thought, okay, I'll replace these, they'll be fine. They should have been, but the problem is when I started to remove them, on about 2 or 3 on each pedal, they got rounded off on the inside. The Loctite kind of material placed on them, there was just too much of it, and they were too tightly embedded in the pedal. So what should have been an easy process of just taking out the larger little grub screw and replacing with a 6mm one went horrendously wrong. I ended up with about 4 or 5 extra long screws in that I didn't want. That meant getting a Dremel out, having to grind them down to the right size. Absolute pain in the backside, quite honestly. However, on the bright side, when I did get down to 6mm and tried them again, they were much better for touring, and I've not had any real problems. I think they're not too bad for comfort at all. They've got quite a nice wide platform. These are the medium to large, the others small to medium, but for this size, if you've got a shoe around 10, 11, they're perfect. I would give them a higher score, but all the problems with having to remove the screws, putting other ones in, that's why I've given them a kind of average mark, 5 out of 10. From this point on, the review is just going to get really bad. I don't have a lot good to say about them as far as durability is concerned. They just need servicing way too often, every 2,000 kilometres or less. I think I've serviced these 5 or 6 times. They're due for a service again. I've just took them off the bike now. I'm not putting them back on. I'm just fed up of them. For this kind of price, you shouldn't be having to service pedals every 2,000 kilometres. Quite frankly, it'd be cheaper just to buy an inexpensive pair and then throw them away once they start to go wrong. Awful. These pedals, I'm really not happy when it comes to maintenance at all. One of the problems is that trying to take these bolts out, they're in super hard. There's 2 you undo here and take the plate off. They're in too tight and they've used too much Loctite. I rounded one off and I just managed to get it out and had to replace it. But if you round them off in situ when it's still in, you can't get pliers onto them, you're not going to be able to do anything with this pedal. You're not going to be able to rebuild it or service it. And the fact is, since you need to service them so regularly, it's going to be a big waste of money. Now, I have rounded off one of these bolts in situ on a pair of Stamp 3s, and I can't service them anymore. So you run that risk. I think it's ridiculous the amount of Loctite or whatever substance they're using to keep these bolts in place. It's absolute madness. So that is awful because you can't properly maintain them. What's also awful is the fact that you're supposed to be able to add grease in whenever you need to without having to take them apart, and there's a little bolt in here. Now, I did this every 500 kilometers. It made no difference whatsoever. So you're still going to have to end up servicing them every couple of thousand kilometers or so. Added to the fact, if you want to maintain them by changing out the little grub screws here, you're going to have a hell of a job there as well. Yeah, again, not good. On to the final section already, and that's cost. Very important. These pedals are around $170 to $180, give or take, in most outlets. And when you look at the specs, the materials used, the weight, then they're pretty much up there, and they're in about the right kind of ballpark. If they weren't such trash, but they don't perform well, and the overall build quality is just not good enough. So to charge $170, $180 for a set of pedals that need so much attention, don't perform, I think it's a heavy ask, quite honestly. So there we have it. I think it's pretty clear. I don't think these pedals are very good. In fact, I think they're trash. I wouldn't advise that you buy them for the money. Although on paper they look good, the specs look great, they just don't hold up the way a set of pedals should for this kind of price. If it was my money and I was doing this again, I would either go for something like the Hope F22s, or alternatively for a pair of flat Shimano's, which is what I've done. A little bit heavier but the same price, and they're absolutely bulletproof. I can't see the purpose with these when they perform so badly. You just buy a cheap pair of Chinese pedals for $20, $30 and use them till they disintegrate, and then buy in another pair. You could do that 5 or 6 times before you get to about the same price. Yeah, they're just charging way too much money. They're not a great product, and I just think they're trash. I really do. I'm never going to buy anything ever again from Crankbrothers. I just don't trust them. I think if they can do this with pedals, they can do it with anything. I have no confidence whatsoever in this company at all. My advice is to be very careful. Certainly with Stamp 7 pedals, I say it's absolute no buy with any of the Stamp range. Don't do it. I do have a pair of Stamp 3s. I will do that review in a week or two, but they're no better either. So one thing left to do. I took these off the bike. As I said earlier, I'm never going to put them back on again, and there's only one place that they belong.